Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about claims, evidence, and reasoning. And to do this, we are going to be annotating an article. But first, we need to learn about what a claim is and what evidence we should use in order to support our claim. Now, to start out, we're going to be discussing about what a claim is. So, simply put, a claim is a statement about the reading or the article that you have just read. But the important thing to remember about a claim is that it is not just a simple fact from the reading, but it is an arguable statement, something that you need evidence to support. Next, we're going to be talking about what's good evidence. So, good evidence is pieces from the reading that support your claim, because our claim needs evidence in order to essentially state your argument. But remember when I said that our claim isn't just facts from the article and that we shouldn't just be restating our evidence? Well, the same thing goes for our evidence. Our evidence shouldn't just be restating our claim. It should be pieces of pieces from the text that help enhance our argument and helps the reader of our argument understand where we're coming from. And one way that you can do this is by including pieces of evidence from different parts of the reading. This shows that your claim applies to not only the beginning of the reading or article, but also the middle and the end. So next we're going to be talking about what is good reasoning. Good reasoning has your voice, obviously. And what this means is that you don't necessarily have to use large words or complex phrases in order to show your argument or show your claim. Using your voice means you're using words that you know and understand. Because anyone can use big words, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your claim is correct, or it might not make sense if you use those big words. So I recommend that when you're explaining your claim and your evidence, that you stick to words that you understand. That way your whole argument, your whole piece of writing will make sense and you yourself can understand it. Next is you're going to explain why. So you have your claim and you have your evidence, but now you're essentially tying it all together. You're explaining why your claim is right and why these pieces of evidence make sense to go along with your claim. And lastly is the so what factor. My English teacher teaches us something called the so what factor, and what it means is it's why people should care about what you're writing about. So why should your teacher or someone that's reading your paragraph or essay care about your claim? So now we're going to be annotating a paragraph from an article from Forbes. This article is talking about the apparent discrimination that's going on during this COVID-19 crisis, especially towards Asian Americans as well as Asian immigrants. So we're going to be annotating and looking for evidence that we can use in order to develop our claim later on. Hate crimes against Asian Americans and Asian immigrants in the United States have been surging. They have ranged from verbal harassment to denial of services to physical attacks. There is no way to know to what extent of President Trump's insistence on calling COVID-19 the China virus may have motivated these acts, but his statement certainly did not prevent them. It is true that the Chinese government acted abysmally, initially denying that the virus could be transmitted person to person. But China is hardly a democracy, and the Chinese people were the victims rather than the perpetrators of this cover-up. So, in the margins, what I like to do is I like to just do a brief summary of each paragraph. So, one major thing that it's talking about is Asian American harassment, which is something that is very important, and we must be taking that into account. And then it talks about, well, yes, that's actually the main idea of this paragraph is the Asian American harassment. So we're going to be taking The main ideas from this article, or this paragraph from the article, and then we're going to be developing our claim. So right now I just have developed a potential claim that we can use to find evidence for. So it says that Asian Americans have suffered mass amounts of hate during the COVID-19 crisis. So what's good about this claim is that it's mainly specific towards the COVID-19 crisis, and it applies directly to our article. Instead of just saying that Asian Americans have suffered mass amounts of hate, while that may be true, it is a rather general statement and might not apply directly to our article and can lead us to having a hard time finding evidence. So this is going to be our claim for it's going to be our claim to find evidence for it. So next we're going to be looking at our paragraph and trying to find two pieces of evidence that we can use to help support our claim. I have two pairs of evidence highlighted here, one in blue and one in green, and now we're going to distinguish which pieces of evidence we should use. So the first pair, which is in blue, states hate crimes against Asian Americans and Asian immigrants in the United States have been surging. And then next it says that it is true that the Chinese government acted abysmally, initially denying that the virus could be transmitted person to person. Then the next one, oops, I didn't finish highlighting that sentence. It says that they have ranged from verbal harassment to denial of services to physical attacks. And then, but China is hardly a democracy, and the Chinese people were victims rather than the perpetrators of this cover-up. So right off the bat here, I think that the green pieces of evidence are the better pieces of evidence to use. Well, many people might choose the blue. That is because it is simply restating our claim. And that is a mistake that many people do, and even I did when I was starting to write claims and evidence. But hate crimes against Asian Americans and Asian immigrants in the United States have been surging. That is simply restating our claim. Our claim is talking about how Asians and Asian Americans are dealing with mass amounts of hate during this time. Well, this is just saying the same thing, but it says that hate crimes have been surging. And our next blue piece of evidence is rather vague. It talks about how the Chinese government has been acting a bit strange in denying that the virus could be transmitted from person to person. And this isn't that great a piece of evidence because it doesn't necessarily match our claim, and it is also more of a transition sentence that is used within the paragraph. So for our claim, I would suggest that we use they have ranged from verbal harassment to denial of services and then physical attacks. And then our next evidence talking about how the Chinese people were victims rather than perpetrators, because it applies directly to our claim, and it actually gives examples of physical attacks and denial of services, while also connecting it back to Chinese people themselves and how they are the victims in this case, and how we shouldn't be framing them as the people who were in charge of this COVID crisis. So now that we have our claim and our evidence, you are now ready to go. We have finally discovered what a good claim is and how to find good evidence, and this is a great example because it applies directly to the current status of the world. And I hope that you and your families are doing safe during this time, and continue to read articles like these and continue to see if you can develop claims on your own now and find evidence on your own that can support your claim. And hopefully I provided some useful tips that you can use in the future. Thank you.